A nurse's calling is one of nurse's unique perks, and the teachable version of this perk is unlocked at level 40. What a nurse's calling says is that the auras of survivors who are healing or being healed are revealed to you when they are within a 20, 24, or 28 meter range. One important thing to know about nurse's calling is it does work for the doctor's snap out of it mechanic. Any survivors who are in the snap out of it action will have their auras revealed to the killer as if they were healing. This is because snap out of it is considered a form of healing, even though it does not look like a form of healing. A nurse's calling is one of the strongest killer perks out there because of the amount of survivors who run self-care and bring medkits. Additionally, healing is such an important act in this game for survivors to do that they must be doing it throughout the game all the time. And that's what makes a nurse's calling so strong, is because it gives you vision on survivors that you may have lost during a chase, or you are just searching the area trying to figure out where they are healing, and when you get within that 28 meter range, you automatically see them and know where they are. This perk especially excels on the nurse because of her high mobility. She will be able to surprise survivors, and even if they stop healing, you still got that initial vision when you blinked into the area. This aura reading provided by a nurse's calling also allows you to blink on survivors who are not paying attention. But this perk is really strong on other killers as well, and in fact, nurse's calling is one of the staple perks in my killer builds, and I use it all the time, so I can tell you from experience how useful it is, because you see survivors all the time. And for some reason, if you are any other killer that's not the nurse, survivors don't expect you to have a nurse's calling, and so they are always healing in your terror radius and just not being careful about where they are healing. And so that gives you a huge advantage as the killer because you get so many surprise attacks or free hits on these unsuspecting survivors. Since nurse's calling has a 28 meter range, if you equip this perk on killers who have terror radiuses that are 24 meters or smaller, then you can have a lot more sneakiness in the match. And it just gives you so much surprise opportunities. You can even combo a nurse's calling with Monitor and Abuse, because Monitor and Abuse will reduce your terror radius while you are out of chase by 8 meters. Now the standard killer terror radius is 32 meters. And so if you take away 8, that means you have a 24 meter terror radius when not in chase. And nurse's calling has a 28 meter radius. So you will be able to see healing survivors, and they will not be able to hear you coming. If you are a survivor, it is important to know about this perk because it can reveal your location to the killer if you start healing. So if you suspect the killer has nurse's calling, you do not want to start healing when they are nearby if they have lost you, because they will just automatically get to find you again, and then you're back in the chase and under pressure. So how can you tell the killer has nurse's calling if you're a survivor? Well, if you're against a nurse, you should automatically assume they are running a nurse's calling, because she is the killer that has it as a teachable, and it is by far the strongest perk on the nurse. So 99% of nurses run nurse's calling. Just never heal in her terror radius. If you hear her blinking, be ready to stop healing because she may be blinking towards your location. And you just have to be very cautious about where the killer is and where you are, and if you're healing in a safe spot or a dangerous spot. If the killer is not a nurse, though, how can you tell they have nurse's calling? Well, it is actually really simple to tell if a killer has nurse's calling. All you have to do is pay close attention to how the killer is acting in the game. So let me just show you an example of what I mean. Here, I got hit by the killer and I run to safety to heal. This area is a good spot because I got a pallet and several line of sight blockers. I can see the killer picks up the survivor. That survivor gets blind saved, and then they run off. So of course the killer starts chasing them, but instead of following their scratch marks, the killer comes to me, because this killer has Nurse's Calling, and so she saw me with the Nurse's Calling aura reveal and tried to surprise me from around the rock, but of course I was paying close attention to my surroundings and was able to avoid going down to her. So again, just pay attention to the killer's behavior throughout the match so you can figure out if they have Nurse's Calling or not. If the killer ever beelines towards a healing survivor, you can make a pretty good guess that yes, they do have Nurse's Calling, because there is no way a killer would be able to automatically know the exact location of an injured survivor when they can't even see where that survivor is, and that survivor has made no track marks or has done anything to attract the killer's attention. So things such as a huntress hatchet flying over your head as you're healing, to someone goes down and there's someone healing in a separate area that's within that 28-meter radius, and the killer goes to try and down the injured survivor instead of automatically picking up the slugged survivor. Just pay attention and you will be able to tell if the killer has Nurse's Calling or not. If you want to play it safe, you could always assume the killer has a Nurse's Calling until you figure out what their 4 actual perks are. Now, one thing to remember, survivors, is, as I said before, not all killers have a 32-meter terror radius. Some of them have a 24-meter terror radius. Some killers, like Michael Myers, have a 16-meter terror radius while in Tier 2 Evil Within. And killers can equip the perk Monitor and Abuse to reduce their terror radius by 8 meters. So that just means you have to be super careful. Just always be aware of where the killer is, or try your best to know where they are, and always heal in a safe location. This is the best way to counter a Nurse's Calling, because if you heal in a safe location where the killer cannot surprise you and that you can throw down a pallet to create a barrier between you and the killer, or jump a window to create a wall distance between you, then you will be fine, even if the killer sees you with Nurse's Calling. And that sums up a Nurse's Calling. I hope this video has helped you out, and thank you very much for watching. As always, good luck out there in the fog, and see ya next time.